So, Garrett, less than a month out now from the midterms, 4 weeks to the day, the Kavanaugh battle firing up voters on both sides of the aisle. Let's bring in America's Newsroom A-team. Leslie Marshall, syndicated radio host and a Fox News contributor. Matthew Continetti, editor-in-chief at the Washington Free Beacon. And Matt Schlapp, former White House political director and chairman of the American Conservative Union. Thanks to our A-team for joining us this morning. A big morning following the ceremony last night. You attended.
I was there with my wife, Mercy, who's working hard in the White House, and it was one of the most emotional events I've ever been to in the White House. The feeling that we have been dragged through the mud in this process has created an emotional bond with many Americans and Brett Kavanaugh. And the fact that this is behind us and he gets to go to work is a really good thing for the country.
So how's that going to energize Republicans?
You know, this is the thing. I would love it if we could separate Supreme Court openings from politics, but because of what Dianne Feinstein and these Democrats did, it is all interwoven. So the Kavanaugh confirmation and all of the emotions it caused, spurred in the country, is going to be a very good thing for the Republican Party. Because even with independents, you look at any poll on the map, and people have shifted towards the Republicans because they think Kavanaugh got a raw deal and they think the Democrats were unfair. That's true with women. That's true with independents across the board. So, and why this continues to be a good thing for Republicans? These ridiculous protests that are everywhere, that are going after everybody who seems to have a public profile. They are hounding. It's not popular.
But Leslie, you can read just about any newspaper right now that says women are fired up and that they are going to vote and vote Democrat this year.
With all due respect to my friend Matt, I don't know what polls you're looking at.
All of them.
Yes, women actually are going to, I believe, flock to the Democrats. I think this is going to be the year of the woman. The fact that we're looking at numbers in Tennessee, like a 2.7, for Marsha Blackburn having a 2.7 increase over her Democratic opponent. The fact that I look at crowds, and I did believe that size mattered in the crowds when Donald Trump ran for president, you cannot ignore 55, 75, 85,000 people crowds for Beto O'Rourke in Texas. And you're looking at states like this where you have such within a percentage of error, a 3% percentage of error in the margin, like in Tennessee. I think that we're going to have a big surprise. I do think it may be more like a blue tsunami because Democrats are angry. And if you remember, it was anger prior to the 2016 presidential election that got people out to vote for Donald Trump and made him president.
Women are not a single issue voting bloc. I mean, most women have a husband or a son to whom they are close, and they see that what happened to Brett Kavanaugh could happen to that male in their life.
But that's not what the numbers are showing.
So wait,
the numbers are showing they're women
You keep talking
first.
about numbers, and so you're both going to call into question each other's polls and who looks at what polls. But what we can look at political donations on each side. We saw a big spike in Republican political donations in the first week. The NRCC reporting 279% spike in the first week of October versus the first week of September. The DNC reporting 167% spike in the first week of October versus the first week of September. What does that tell you?
Well, I think there's no doubt that Kavanaugh was a rallying point for the right. And so that has brought in, I think, added enthusiasm among Republican voters. And it's also brought in the donations that you mentioned. The thing is, there are two maps here, right? There's the House map, where I think Leslie has a point, where it's going to be affected by a lot of suburban women who kind of took the opposite side on the Kavanaugh issue. But then there's the Senate map. And that Senate map, with Republicans looking for pickups, that is the map that favors Republicans, especially after the jolt that the Kavanaugh win has given them.
But still, you go back to Byron York talking to John Scott when he lit up the 9 a.m. hour for us, and he said after the confirmation and after the swearing, Democrats are more mad than they were before he was confirmed. And you look at some of the liberal op-ed headline tears. Liberals, this is war. Charles Blow, the New York Times, get angry, get involved. That's another New York Times headline. We need to stay angry on Kavanaugh. The Washington Post. Man.
So they have been, this is where the hardcore left has been since Donald Trump's inaugural. And I give them credit. They've kept up the fever pitch. They are mad. It's hashtag resistance. It's stop. It's search. It's destroy. It's ruined Kavanaugh's reputation. That intensity is kept up. You know what's happening now? triggered by the Kavanaugh confirmation and a lot of promises by Donald Trump. That enthusiasm on the conservative side, on the Republican side, on the pro-Trump side is now equating to where Democrats are. And that's the key thing. I'd say, Leslie, to every poll, you're right. There's lots of, the Democrats have advantages with women, especially single women. But if you look at the numbers 60 days ago to today, we have improvements in absolutely every poll, including even the CNN poll, which showed an 11-point swing. The fact is this, the Republicans are now on the field. They are equating where the Democrats have been in terms of intensity, and we have a real shot, not only just to pick up Senate seats. The House is still in play. Everyone says, oh, it's a foregone conclusion the Democrats are going to pick up the House. That is untrue, because with every day that goes by, we are improving in the polls.
I want to play for you some sound from Kamala Harris, the senator from California. This is her on Sunday, and then we'll comment after that. Listen.
And so let this last week, and in all that we have experienced in terms of our frustrations and our anger and our sadness, let's use this week to give us all that extra energy that we know we have, to remember that the bottom line is that they may have the power right now, but we need to take it back.
Kamala Harris was front and center in the Kavanaugh hearings. She's a former California attorney general. She knows that there was not enough evidence to convict him in a court of law, but never let that get in the way of a presidential audition.
No, those 20 Democrats on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Kamala Harris and also Cory Booker, I think are using the hearings as kind of their launch pad for their presidential runs. I thought it was interesting, actually, during that momentous occasion where Kavanaugh and Dr. Ford testified. By the time Democrats got to Kamala, she was kind of reserved, actually, in her questioning. And I wonder whether it's exactly to your point, John, that maybe she thought, you know what, I'm just going to kind of recede into the background here, and then, of course, capitalize it on politically within my own party once the confirmation has succeeded.
She wasn't reserved on Sunday in those remarks there.
No, I would agree with you, and I think this happens on both sides. If somebody, they're looking at their political future, and there's certainly talk. I live in California. She's one of my senators, that she's going to run. I mean, she's a minority, she's younger than some of my party, and a lot of people in California like her. But at the same time, she's also doing something I think is smart for the party, which is, as you know, between now, even though we're a month away, between now and that day when people vote, a lot could happen. Whether the president tweets something. When you're in a restaurant,
he's going to tweet something.
When you're in a restaurant and you love your meal, you don't ask for the manager, do you? It's when that fly is in your soup. And the fly is in the soup of the Democrats, and people like the senator and others on my side of the aisle are fanning those flames and saying, don't forget, so they will
get out. A lot can
out.
happen, and it just has.
We are now getting word, official word, we've confirmed that Nikki Haley, the UN ambassador, has offered her resignation to the President of the United States. Nikki Haley offering her resignation. We're just getting word of this after several reports started to roll in. We're now being told there will be a pool call very soon. The president is expected to speak in the Oval Office at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. That is just shy of 20 minutes from now. I want to open this up to Matt Schlapp. Obviously, you were at the...
I desperately want to use my phone right now.
Yeah, well, of course, you're married to Mercedes Schlapp, who is inside the White House, probably right now.
I'll just say one thing. Unless this is a personal issue or a health concern, which I hope is not the case, it's obviously very unusual for a significant and prominent person on the president's team to announce that she's leaving so close to an election. So there's something to this story, and like everyone in America, I want to know what it is. And
she has been pretty much in lockstep with the president. When that whole, the op-ed, the anonymous op-ed came out, she was saying, that she does disagree with the president from time to time, but she tells him so to his face. She doesn't write an anonymous op-ed.
So
Matthew?
Let me just get, Axios was the first to report this. Again, Fox has independently confirmed this, but in Axios' reporting on this, what they're hearing is that she had discussed her resignation with the president last week when she visited him at the White House. Her news obviously came as a shock to senior foreign policy officials inside of the Trump administration. Obviously, the former governor of South Carolina, your thoughts as we learn more.
A huge political talent, someone who's been a great asset for the Trump administration, also a bridge between Trump Republicans and the fading GOP establishment, I'd say. So this comes as a great surprise, and I'm with Schlapp here. We need to find out what the story is.
You want to use my phone?
I know. We can share it.
I want to call your wife.
She was easily confirmed just days after the president took office. And they also go on to look back at some of the things that she has said in the past, including an op-ed that was published in September challenging the New York Times anonymous op-ed. You'll remember she said, "I don't agree with the president on everything. When there is disagreement, there is a right way and a wrong way to address it. I pick up the phone and call him or meet with him in person." She's also said, "I like my colleagues in the cabinet and on the National Security Council. I have very open access to the president." You've heard her say that many times in the past. "He does not shut out his advisors, but he does not demand that everyone agree with him. I can talk to him most any time, and I frequently do." She has.
I think, look, the biggest tension here with the UN ambassador is with the Secretary of State and with the National Security Advisor. So, you have a brand new Secretary of State, you have a brand new National Security Advisor.
Who used to be UN ambassador.
Absolutely. So there's no question that these folks are probably trying to figure everything out. At the end of the day, most UN ambassadors really do kind of fall under their purview. I know she's got a separate seat at the cabinet, but not really. It's a job that that is subservient to those other jobs, and maybe that's a part of this decision, but that's unclear.
The timing of her departure has not been established, so it could be that she'll be there for another month, 2 months, who knows?
I'm surprised because, quite frankly, there are people on the left, myself included, who do find some merit with things that she has done in her former position, and I think that she was, in a sense, and not was, I mean, she hasn't passed, obviously, but I mean, I think she really could have had perhaps a very bright career, or maybe still can as a Republican politician in the future once her tenure at the UN was done. But this just is very surprising. Again, all of us wanting to grab our
For those who are just...
As you well know, though, your wife works in the White House.
Yep.
I mean, these are grueling jobs.
Grueling jobs. And she has a family, and so I just hope there's no problems.
Right.
I don't believe that she uprooted her entire family, and as a working woman with children and having sometimes the mommy guilt of working, I mean, that can weigh, sorry guys, on women more than men. You guys know, especially Matt, I know you with your little ones. But,
women are not easy on themselves, that's for sure.
Yeah,
they're not.
No, very much so. I was very surprised at this. Like you were talking about, this is not the name that I would have expected. I would have expected to be a Sessions. I would have expected it to be Rosenstein, and the timing, because even though you may say it doesn't rock the stability, it's the perception of the voters, left or right, about the stability or lack thereof, because there is such turnover
Fair to point
in this administration.
Fair to point out that the second big surprise in a couple days, because Rod Rosenstein flying with the president yesterday, having a 45-minute conversation on board Air Force One.
The other end of the
was
spectrum.
a bit of a shock as well. Back to you, Leslie.
Again, I'm just with you. You know what I'm thinking about? I'm remembering when Michelle Bachmann talked about how difficult it was in the ages of her children. She had a daughter that was 16, I believe, and it was a time that she felt that she needed to be with her more rather than in D.C. There have been people in the Bush White House that said, "Look, I got to go back to Texas. I can't keep this job." And I'm not going to Vegas with any bet here, but I'm thinking it's personal simply because she has been doing a good job, especially for the administration she's been working for. It doesn't seem by Friend in his tweet that he has any complaints with her, that it was a forced resignation.
And she left the governor's office in South Carolina pretty popular. I
Very
mean,
popular.
home's got to look awfully good when you're stuck in New York City, getting yelled at by folks at the UN.
Well, she's a Republican star. There's no doubt about that. And I think her time at the UN has made that star shine brighter. Remember, we just had a very successful UNGA here in New York City, where she was at Donald Trump's side throughout, and they led very important meetings on global opioid crisis, also being a crackdown on Iran. So there are a lot of big issues that this presidency is confronting on foreign policy, and Haley, I think, played a great role. Maybe not so much in formulating the policy, right? Because as you say, she has to deal with State Department and defense, but definitely as a communicator of those policies.
And when she was governor, I mean, I liked some of the things that she did, and I'm a liberal Democrat. She was definitely more moderate, and that could appeal, obviously, to both sides of the aisle.